Good afternoon. This is a training team from RESUS Labor and Social Security Consultant Office. Today, we would like to introduce to expatriate workers in Japan some of the contents of workplace harassment prevention training for Japanese companies, government offices, and educational institutions. Understanding harassment flows, be aware what you need to do to prevent it from occurring in the workplace. What is harassment? Harassment is widely recognized as a term that refers to nuisance such as bullying toward others. In the workplace, sexual harassment, power harassment, and maternity harassment cause most of the problems, and it is necessary to understand them correctly. Harassment problems showing tendency to increase. The number of certified workers' compensation related to brain, heart disease, and mental disorders, which are thought to be mainly caused by harassment, is increasing year by year. It has reached a high record in the last 3 years. Law related to harassment. The major laws related to harassment are wide-ranging and frequently amended. Related to power harassment. Labor Measures Comprehensive Promotion Act. Related to sexual harassment. Equal Employment Opportunity Law. Related to maternity harassment. Equal Employment Opportunity Law. Law on welfare for workers who raise children and cares for their families. Where there are multiple cases, such as power harassment and maternity harassment, sexual harassment and maternity harassment, labor standards law, civil code, penal code, labor contract act, and other relevant laws or regulations apply. Harassment by national government officials, national universities, and self-defense force personnel is subject to state redress law. The offender is not directly responsible for illegal acts and is subject to disciplinary action under civil service law. The difference between power harassment and sexual harassment. Power hara, which was commonly known as power harassment, is now established by law. What is power harassment? Business owner must establish the necessary system and appropriate measures for empowerment in management by responding to consultations concern employees in order to avoid harming the working environment from dominant behavior in the workplace which exceeds necessary and reasonable scope in the course of business. What is sexual harassment? Business owner must establish the necessary systems and appropriate measures for employment management by responding to consultations concerned employees in order to avoid harming the working environment from sexual behavior in the workplace by employees and disadvantage for working conditions by sexual behavior from other employees. Harassment terms. The harassment terms are interpreted same in all relevant laws and his usage is very broad. What is a workplace? Workplaces include not only offices, but also places where business is carried. Business partner's office, restaurant for meeting, during displacement, customer's home, business-oriented banquet. Who is the employee? The employees include all employees, not only full-time employee, also part-time employees and contract employees. Dominant relationship. A dominant relationship is that cannot be resisted or rejected in business due to hierarchical relationship, presence or absence of expertise. A group relationship is also considered as a dominant relationship, exceeding the necessary and reasonable scope in the course of business. Deviance, inappropriateness, frequency, mode or method that are clearly not necessary for work and behavior beyond social acceptable limits. What happens if you don't take measures against harassment? If a harassment occurs in the workplace, what are the potential legal liabilities? We shall take a consideration for the legal related to harassment, as it becomes familiar that anyone can be perpetrator or victim. Business owner's liability, employer's liability. Workers' tort shall be jointly and severally liable. Tort liability. If the representative himself herself can be regarded as the same person, the business owner's own tort liability is recognized. Violation of safety obligation. Obligation to provide a comfortable working environment for workers. Actor's liability. Tort liability. Those who infringe on the rights and interests of others are obliged to make compensation. Criminal liability. Disciplinary action. Sanctions for offense of corporate order based on labor regulations. Workers' liability. Obligation to cooperate with power harassment prevention measures. Obligation to devote oneself to duties. National Civil Service Law for national government officials. Defamation. Learn from judicial precedents. Important judicial precedents. Power harassment 1/4, assault, disability, and confinement. In bold physical contact, power harassment is covered by the Penal Code. Recent judicial precedents have considered various requirements for obvious deviations from social acceptable limits, such as personality denial, duration of the act, relationship with the actor. Escortship Sawagiri bullying case. Maritime self-defense, Horse A committed suicide after being told by 2 superiors that you're disqualified as a sergeant and you dump. The illegality was denied for one of them, and it was evaluated that he had a good relationship because he recommended the victim and invited him with alcohol that the victim brought at his home. Another superior officer was recognized as illegal. Important judicial precedents. Sexual harassment 1/4. Sexual harassment is not evaluated for relevance to work compared to power harassment. It will be considered as a sexual harassment even casual teasing if the other party feels uncomfortable and if you do not stop despite his or her dislike. Sexual insult case against city council member. Female city council member X asked her male colleague A to retract his remark when he told her that she doesn't need a man. However, he refused to withdraw as he considered as a humor. X described his remark as a sexual harassment and reported it in a parliamentary and distributed it to city officials. Meanwhile, A wrote X without a man with her real name in the magazine and distributed it to the citizens. In the judgment, even after expressing displeasure, the act of distributing in public relationship was considered to highly illegal defamation and human rights violations, and A was ordered the payment of compensation. Even if the teasing, this case is clearly sexual and the victim dislike is considered. Case law is a tip of the iceberg. In recent years, many important judgments, including the Supreme Court, have been accumulated, which allow to learn how harassment is judged by the judiciary. We need to understand the increase in judicial precedents include also minor trouble case which does not lead to the trial. Raise awareness. Harassment is an ambiguous problem. In order to prevent harassment from occurring in a workplace, it depends on how much we raise our awareness against harassment. Facilitate workplace communication. In order to eliminate power harassment, consideration for others is essential. Clerks in communication occur the harassment. Judicial precedents also affect the evolution of harassment depending on the behavior. Not raise a voice. Advice. Preach one sentence short, within 60 minutes. Remark a problem behavior only when it happens. Consideration for differences, job abilities. Understanding disabilities and weakness. Not judge by own perspective. Reprimand rationally. Have been drunk does not considered count. Apologize when you are aware. This kind of behavior can be no good. The following acts are not judged to be sexual harassment by themselves. However, they are recognized as harassment depending on the continuation and combination with other acts as a factor of reinforced sexual behavior. It's acceptable with friends and family. Do not do it at workplace. Stare. Take a picture of a cruise. Ask how things are going with girl boyfriend. Touch your head, shoulders, or back. Remark specific gender. Enthusiastic love confessions to subordinates. This way to think can be sexual harassment. Because it's a man, it's a woman. These behaviors are based on fixed gender roles, and it can be unconsciously happen to be speaking out. Correction of behavior is difficult for the generation whom has been taught since childhood. There is a possibility to cause of sexual harassment. Sloppy despite from a man. Man must nourish a family. This job is impossible for women. When children are young, mothers should concentrate on children cares. Better to get married soon and have a family. Remarks about physical appearance. Hope you enjoyed the video. Moral harassment in the workplace is gaining attention internationally, and we hope to have introduced their programs in Japan. This is the end of today's training. If you'd like to have a training in detail or purchase the full version of the training video, please contact us from the link below. Thank you very much.